Hey everybody, welcome to week number 8. In this week's video, I want to discuss, extra supplements, vitamins, things like that. And the reason I want to discuss this is, there are a lot of people who, when they're first getting into fitness, health, losing weight, they oftentimes can get a little bit overwhelmed with the many, many options of supplements, and all the people, influencers telling them which things are quote unquote necessary to make changes. Whether they're talking about fat burners, muscle builders, things for a clear mind, supplements for digestion, increased cardio, EEAs, BCAs, there's so many. So the question is, which do we actually need and which ones are worth paying for? And to start off, what I want to do is I want to kind of just go over a list of the supplements that I think are actually worth spending money on and why. Now, before I do go over the list, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that there are other supplements, that aren't on this list that are a complete waste of money. Most of them are going to be case by case. For example, like a digestion supplement. There's a lot of influencers out there saying that these are essential for fat loss or essential for anybody, that even if you don't have digestive issues, your body's not going to be able to break things down. That's just not really true. It can be helpful if you have a specific need or have a digestion issue, but unless you have a specific problem, this is one that I don't really think is necessarily needed to make changes. So before jumping into it all, I quickly want to kind of go over some of the big claims that supplement companies make, or at least push and try to make it seem like is true. So the first one is that supplements can add muscle or strength or increase in fat loss as soon as you begin them. Number two, supplements can change your body fat radically, completely on their own. Three, the main difference between where you are right now and where your goal is the supplement. That's kind of that missing link. Four, that the specific brand of the supplement is the biggest difference. And five, supplements are the hidden tool in the toolbox that make the biggest difference. All five of these are not true. Adding supplements can make little small changes. It can help in little tiny things, but in no way is any one single supplement going to be the big difference or the missing link, so to speak. Supplements are exactly what they say. They are a supplement. They help supplement something. So to kind of jump in a little bit deeper into the supplements that I personally think are worthwhile, and then we're going to jump into each one a little bit deeper and kind of why. So these are the list. I have 5 things that I think are worth having and I always make sure to have on hand. But even these aren't necessary for you. If you don't feel like spending money, I'm going to kind of talk about why these are important. So if you decide you want them, great. If not, you can achieve any goal without any extra supplements. But this is my list of what I find is important. Number 1, whey or casein protein powder. 2, creatine. 3, stimulants, things like caffeine, whether it's a pre-workout or even just caffeine pills. 4, carb powders. 5, daily vitamins and minerals. So first, I want to quickly talk about whey and casein protein. Really quickly, let's just break down the difference between the two. You've probably heard of whey protein. Casein protein is similar, it's just a little bit different. The main difference between these two is how quickly they are broken down into the body. So for example, whey, which is what most people see, this is going to be the best option for right before or right after a workout. And when you're trying to just get protein in. It hits really fast and it hits hard. Whereas casein protein, naturally, you're mostly going to find this in things like yogurt, cottage cheese, kefir, things like that. Casein can take hours and hours to break down into the body. And so oftentimes the tool that you're going to utilize this for is putting protein in right before the end of the night, because it can take most of the night to kind of break down and slowly be synthesizing protein into your body as you're sleeping. Or if, let's say, you have like a really long flight or a long meeting, sometimes people will use this to kind of stay satiated and not as hungry because it's in your system so much longer than whey protein. Now, I personally like to use casein, like I said, when I'm in a deep cut, I'm super hungry, or right before bed, just because it kind of helps curb that hunger a little bit. But on protein powders in general, the reason that these two are, I think, worth having is, and a caveat, they're not better than regular animal proteins like physical foods like eggs, egg whites, chicken, turkey, beef, pork, these things like this. They are going to be a little bit better because the body actually has to digest them. But the reason the protein powder is so useful is it is an easy and effective way to get your protein in. So if you're someone who just really needs to get protein in, you're going to work, you don't have a ton of time, that's when protein powder is useful. Or if you have an issue with your appetite, especially when people are first kind of switching over to eating cleaner food, a lot of times they're actually going to feel full a lot throughout the day. And so having protein powder, this is a way where if you're full and you don't feel like eating, 6 ounces of chicken, you can just drink a protein powder drink and kind of get that all in. And so, like I mentioned, protein powder is not a required supplement. It is just something that is going to help you get your goals. If you have a certain number of protein you need to hit each day, this is just a way to help you get there and make it a little bit more convenient. Now, creatine. You may have heard of creatine. It's super popular in bodybuilding, and it's usually advertised as a muscle building supplement. And truth be told, this is one of the most singular studied supplements out there. And essentially what it's going to do is it forces fluid into the muscle tissues or just the connective tissues. And there are a couple of really positive effects from this. And the main one, and the reason it is so heavily studied, actually isn't because of the muscle gain. It's because one of the parts of the body that is filled with extra fluid is the brain. And so it's going to be one of the most useful supplements that can be used in healing the brain, after a brain injury. I myself, this is what my doctor had me do after I had my severe concussion from getting hit by the car. And it's a super useful supplement for anyone at any age to be taking to kind of help with the brain function. There's no negative effects. And a positive side effect is that it can help with building muscle and leaning out. So creatine is one that isn't necessary, but if you don't mind spending a little bit extra money and having it on hand and taking it every day, creatine can be a really good one. Usually they suggest a dose of between 5 and 15 grams a day. Pretty simple. Supplements or stimulants, sorry. I won't go super in depth with stimulants. Pretty obvious. Some people really like using it, for the gym, having caffeine, feeling more awake and aware. Totally up to you. There are studies that say that it can be super helpful for training. It's not necessary. I personally like using them. Carb powders are another one I'm not going to dive super deep into. There are a lot of studies that say they can be helpful. Essentially, a carb powder is just carbs that are broken down into a really easy form you can put in a drink so that while you're working out, you can be consuming carbs. Now, if you're someone who me and you are working together to have you a lot of training and heavy training, I might implement these, but unless we're doing a lot of heavy weightlifting, you can just ignore this one. The last is just like daily vitamins and minerals. These are things like zinc, magnesium, fish oils, vitamin D, A, or C. There's a ton of different vitamins. For these, there are for sure some helpful assistance that can come from these. Though each one is very slight. And again, the only thing is kind of needed case by case, right? If you tend to have a lot of low vitamin D, then for sure add it in. There's some of the other ones, zinc, magnesium. I really like these because they help with sleep, help setting a good sleep schedule. So I kind of put those in. But again, for all of these, none of these are required. None of these are necessary. You can add supplements in, or you can choose not to. It totally depends. And I guess just to kind of end and say it a little bit more clearly, the one thing I just really want to make sure you understand, supplements, they do have a place. They can be useful. And if you like them, then great, go ahead and use them. But there is not a single supplement that can replace a good diet or a good training plan. There is no supplement that is standing in the way of your goals. There might be a supplement that if added in can help in some small ways, but if you see some ad saying that you need the newest fat burner or this or that, don't listen. So in the end, the only supplement that I will have in the program for everybody is whey protein, just because it's such a useful tool to help getting in your protein, especially, like I mentioned, for those who struggle with appetite or just short on time and super busy. If you wish to add in any others, great, let me know. And if it's something that I didn't discuss in this video, there may be merit to it, and we can kind of discuss that and see if it's something helpful. Now, on this topic of supplements and things like that, the one thing I do want to add in this week is a little bit more of a focus on your water intake. Water is something that we all know we need, and some people are really good at drinking water through the day. Like my wife averages like 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons a day, just naturally. She just loves water. But a lot of people, myself included, kind of struggle to get the water in without forcing themselves and tracking how much water they're actually drinking through the day. But not drinking enough water can be super detrimental to both your physical health and your mental health. You have to have water. So if you're eating good food but not drinking enough water, the body is going to be a little bit slower in both the burning of fat and the building of muscle. So water intake is super important. This week, the one thing that I want to add in is calculating how much water you're actually drinking. Now, the goal is I would really be happy if everyone's drinking at least a gallon of water a day. But for this first week, I really mostly just want you calculating the water. I'm not expecting you to hit this every single day. We're going to kind of work on this and kind of see where everything's in. But we're going to be kind of calculating how much water you're intaking. So for this week, we're going to be tracking the water you intake. In addition, to you texting me a picture of the calories at the end of the day, I want you to just type in how much water that you drank through the day. So if it's like half a gallon, just let me know, and this is something we can kind of work on. And then the only other thing this week is if you are someone who we're already weight training 2 times a week, this is the week that we're going to increase that to 3 training sessions a week, if applicable. Obviously, some people aren't going to have the schedule, but if this is something that we're ramping up together, this is the week we're going to add in that 3rd training session. Make sure to fill out your check-in form as soon as possible so I can kind of update your meal plan if needed. And then I'll send you that post email to-do list as well. So hope everyone's having a good day, and let's get cracking on week 8.